Alright, we're back. Moving on. Banner 2 is the old Banner 4. We've got no real theme going on this banner. This banner's kind of all over the place. I guess a primary and wind, and a secondary on fire. It's wind and fire, I guess. Yeah, sure. Wind and fire. Onion Knight just kind of throws it for a loop because it's quad. Okay. First up, Cloud ASB. It's a wind sword, so it's already good, but it's an ASB on Cloud, so automatically kind of elevates it to yet another level. So this is a really good thing to be on this banner. So it's a good start. You all know what ASBs do. This is a 21 hit variety, but that's actually a good thing in Cloud's hands because with enough damage boosts and his USB 1, he all of a sudden starts breaking the damage cap with those first 20 hits, which allows Cloud, unlike any other character in the game other than Sephiroth, to break the 300,000 damage cap that other people are bound to with their ASBs. So yeah, that's a thing. It exists, and it's really good. Next up, we have Terra's USB 2. 10 single target, magical fire, end fire, black magic boost. This looks very, very familiar. There's a reason for that. It's exactly Renoa's Brave USB from the previous banner. Because the Brave mode, they're all very, very similar. It's I should have talked about that on the previous banner, how Brave modes work, because it's still kind of new to everybody. Where you start out, once you cast the USB, you start out with one Brave charge. And when you cast the USB, your attack command turns into the Brave command. It's like kind of a burst, but newer. And the more Brave charges you have, the stronger that Brave command is. But you can only have 3 Brave charges. So what happens is you start out with 1 charge, and then you get +1 Brave charge when using Black Magic abilities. So what you do is you cast the USB, and then you use a Black Magic ability, now you're at 2. Use a Black Magic ability, now you're at 3. Use the Brave command since it's maxed out. It's a 35 multiplier. It's very, very similar to an OSB. An OSB is a 40 multiplier. But, the big advantage is that it doesn't cost any soul break points. It casts at a normal cast speed. That's no problem. And it generates soul break points. I think about 100 if you're hitting weakness, which obviously you should be. So what happens is you do that, use those 2 Black Magic abilities, then you use your Brave, then you use 3 Black Magic abilities, because once you use the Brave, you get knocked back down to 0. Not 1, to 0. So then you need to use 3 to get it back up to full, and then you use it again. So that would be the ideal usage of a Brave USB would be ability, ability, Brave, ability, 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 Brave. And mages like Terra And Renoa can actually achieve that because they have Quick Cast built into their Legend Dives. And that's correct. Dual casts do not grant extra brave uses. You need to. It's ability use that generates the charges, not action. Or like, yeah, whatever. No dual casts. You can dual cast all you want, but it just doesn't add more brave attacks. Yeah, it does have a sunset, like bursts. So the fact that Terra has a trance mode, which gives her quick cast, and Renoa has an LM2 that gives her quick cast charges, allows Terra and Renoa and other mages like it to natively, without the help from outside, to hit the necessary, 7 actions? Yeah, 7 actions that it would take to get both your brave attacks off. If you have her ASB and USB 1 is still a good target. Not really, no. It doesn't really do much for her. Ability double would not stack it. So if you RW'd in VV and tried to use the USBs together, it would not work. Because ability double attacks are treated as chases. How would Terra USB 2 compare to her USB 1? I would not suggest using both of them. Yeah, I mean, you can if you want. If you want to alternate, if you don't have access to her ASB or anything, you have nothing else to use the soul break points for. But one versus the other, tough one. I don't value the quick cast on Terra's USB 1 all that much because of her trance mode and the possibility of receiving external cast buffs, which makes getting more quick cast just that much less effective. What I do value her USB 1 for, and this is what, in my opinion, is what separates them and what should determine which one you're going to use, is that 30% magic buff that she gets from her USB 1. That is significant. Because if you don't have magic buffs on the team, Terra would very much like a 30% magic buff to self buff, and she can completely exist on her own buffs without any external buffs if you've got her USB 1. Where with the USB 2, you're probably going to want at least an external buff to make up for that 30%. So, if you do have the external buff, I'd probably say USB 2. Because you're going to transfer. Oh, I guess that matters too. If you're running a strategy, which you probably should, by trancing Terra on first turn, so she has that quick cast, then yeah, that's yet another reason not to use the USB 1. The USB 2 is good. It is good because Terra has native quick cast. And Fire and Black Magic Boost together is a sizable damage increase. So, you're definitely probably going to want to use Chain Faraja with her. Just to give her 5 hits, and she can fill in the damage on those 5 hits pretty well with this damage boost. And unfortunately, this is a Black Magic ability boost. It will not apply to her ASB. Not that impactful, but it is. It's something to note. That it's Black Magic ability and not BLK damage. Right, it does complement her trance mode better. Okay, so this is decent. Especially if you're someone like me who's currently using Terra with her Glint and her ASB, because I don't have her USB 1. There's a lot of times when I'm using Terra with her Glint and this is why I would shy away from the USB 1 at this point, is because whenever I use the Glint, it's instant cast itself and grants her 2 charges of high quick cast. I always feel like those 2 charges of high quick cast are wasted because she's already attacking so quickly. So I'm only using it for the end fire, which it kind of feels like a waste of 250 soul break points. It's basically the best way it can get in fire, so it's still good. But if I had other options, I would use them, and her USB 2 is a better option. Okay, so that's Terra. Oh, Terra is just a disgusting fire mage. So if you don't have anything for her, if you have her ASB or something, this is just a pretty good thing to have. Um, Onion Knight, friggin' Onion Knight out of nowhere goes from being a support to a mage. Onion Knight USB 3 is a whole bunch of stuff um, that basically just translates into Bart's USB 1, the chicken knife, for magic. It is exactly that. The only thing that's different is cast speed times 2 for magical damage, where Bart's has a global quick cast, which is just cast speed times 2 for everything. They had to add on a qualifier here. They didn't have to add this on. I don't know why they added this on, because the chase is after a black magic ability. He's not gonna use this with physical attacks. So why add on this qualifier? So Bart's quick cast allows him to quick cast out Magicites or something. It's not that impactful. It's not. But anyway, 10 single target, 4 quad element attacks, magic 30%, cast speed times 2 for magical damage, and chases all 4 elements. Um, oh, there is another difference too. Prevent wrath abuse, I guess, but if you're using this, you're not gonna wrath with them. It's just not. Why would you use this? Just for you lose the magic 30%. That's not doing anything for wrath. You're losing the chase. That's not going to cause wrath. I I don't see the reason, but uh, if you are using this, you're going to be making magical attacks anyway. So um, this is a very good thing, in particular, because look at the elements that it covers. This is, in my opinion, is the most important part of this USB. We know Onion Knight can 35% chance to dual cast black magic. We know he can do, a lot of BLK damage even though he doesn't have elements. This is the most important part, is that look at these elements. Okay, fire's a pretty easy mage team to assemble. But what about Wind, Water, and Earth? Wind, Water, and Earth are both pretty hard. So he fills in on the harder to develop, especially water. Water is such a pain in the ass um, on those teams, which is actually really really powerful because he's not replaceable on any of those 4 teams by much of anything. There's maybe 2 or 3 mages in Wind and Earth that could potentially replace him if you're using a 3 DPS setup. So the fact that he's using rare elements, and we already know the power of the Bart's thing, so we know how powerful this is even without an element. Um, and to top it all off, it's water light armor. So 6-star water light armor. That's great. No issues. I like this a lot. Got a question about this banner. If you have too many dupes on this banner, all Lara, Cloud ASB, where do you suggest to pull for OK USB 3? Next festival. That's the only other place it exists, I think. No, Maya sucks. Rydia probably qualifies. I would say Rydia with her USB 2 qualifies as being better than Onion Knight. Go-Go sucks. And Strago. Strago with Chain would, yeah. So Onion Knight is third option. Well, remember, there's Vivi and Palom as well. I'd take Vivi and Palom over Maya or Go-Go any day. It's not random, Booker. It's 5 hits. Five locked at 5 hits, I think. Let's go check. I gotta put that music back on. I'm just gonna replay it. I'm sorry about the music situation. That was something is really hard to replicate from my computer to this one. Yep, 5 attacks. And this, I'm not used to the going back to the 1080 or 1920 by 1080 screen. Can't zoom in as much anymore. Locked at 5 attacks for a 7.95, which is a good damage chase. For reference, most the best chases, the rank-based chases are about 8.32, so it's barely weaker than that. Okay, so Onion Knight USB 3, good thing to have. Ferris USB 3. Ferris is such a weird character. 10 single target, win non-elemental, Imperil win 20% for 25 seconds. Cast Pirate Seal after every second thief ability used for 15 seconds. For those of you familiar with Agrius and her USB 2, this is identical to that, except it's wind instead of holy. So every second thief ability she uses, which is nicer on Ferris than it is for Agrius, because thief abilities cast faster, so she'll be able to stack this Imperil better than Agrius can. Well, unless you have like Marsh on the team or something. So it starts out Imperiling, and you just keep on fast casting thief abilities, and you can stack this Imperil pretty damn high just by yourself. The problem is, I don't think Ferris is that good of a damage sealer, so you really are using her for as a damage boost for someone else on the team. Luckily, there is one character in the game that can benefit from all the damage boosts that you're going to give him, and that's Cloud. So, and Cloud's ASB is on this banner. So, really, this is a good USB, even though Ferris isn't that much of a damage dealer by herself. But Physical Wind does have really good options available to it, and I would say that Ferris probably falls pretty far down the heap as far as how effective this USB would be compared to others. So I wouldn't consider this like that big of a win, because you may just end up replacing it in the future. Cloud and Zac are just such big presences because of the chain and what Cloud does. And then there's so many Wind Dragoons in the game that it'd probably take over this. Yeah, what I think this is a replacement for the Wind Chain. If you don't have the Wind Chain, I think this ups in value, because I'm not sure if there's any better wind damage enabler than than this after Zack's Chain. Zidane USB 1. Yeah, Zidane USB 1. Never mind. Zidane USB 1 would take over this because Zidane's not only a magnificent imparoler, but he's also a giant damage dealer at the same time. I think that's the dream team, isn't it? Zidane, Cloud, and Zack. Yeah. So, um, let's look at this through a different light. Ferris USB 3 used in Torment. Wind damage dealers. Well, there is a pretty good wind damage dealer in Final Fantasy V. That would be Bartz. But nobody else, I don't think. So you would have to base the team around Ferris and Bartz. Which honestly, if you've got enough stuff for Bartz, you could pull it off. Oh, bad manner. I hit back on the wrong screen. Uh, I wish Ferris wasn't here either. She's kind of a deuce, the wrong kind of deuce. But it's not bad. It's just something that's easily replaceable, and that's the issue. Even the role that it performs is something that others can do better. Next up, Alara USB. I spoke a lot about this when it first came out. That hasn't diminished. That hasn't diminished at all. Alara's USB is, in my opinion, the best healer soul break in the game. And that is including when Brave USBs for healers are introduced, and nothing that has come out before 4th anniversary. I haven't looked that closely at 4th anniversary. I'm tired of doing free advertising for Lyft. Nothing before 4th anniversary comes out has changed my mind on Alara's USB being the best healer soul break in the game. I don't think so. Isn't Rose's USB exactly what Alara's USB is? In which case it boils down to the other things that they do, and I'll take Alara over Rosa any day. Rosa's Legend Dive is shit. Yeah, Wrath doesn't mean anything to me. So she gets a lower chance to dual cast with an LMR while Alara just needs a dive. Yeah, and right, you lose the Bard. You lose the summoning. Alara can generate Soul Break points without using Wrath. I would much rather summoning than the ability to Wrath. Alright, so Alara's USB is amazing. Yeah, Alara Quick Cast too. You forget what her USB does? It's 3 charge, or yeah, it's 2 charges of high quick cast. So she quick casts. Her quick casts those summons for the extra soul break points. Alright, anyway, moving on. Cloud Glint. Cloud Glint's really good. Like I said, any way you can increase the amount of damage that Cloud does, um, the better it is for Cloud, because Cloud, unlike other characters in the game, there's no damage caps to adhere to, so he just does he converts all of that damage into more damage. So being able to end win stack with Cloud is just an extremely good thing to have, especially if you have no way to end win with him to begin with, because he does have his ASB on the banner, and you would like that. So if you have his USB 1 already, that's all you got. This is really good because both of those are together, so that's great. Ferris BSB 2 instant cast, wind and fire damage. Um, it's something. I believe it's debuff based, which kind of reduces its usefulness. But it is instant cast, and that's always nice. Yeah, attack and defense minus 50% for 25 seconds. Uh, the fact that it's instant makes that not bad. Not bad at all. Even with a 70% reduction in Torment, this is still going to accomplish something against Gilgamesh. And on physical teams in Magicite, it probably will as well. It's the fact that it's instant, but it's on Ferris, so it's not going to do that much damage itself. So I'd want to have the chain on the team in order to use this, but it's not that much to be excited about, to be honest. It's fire and wind. Physical fire and wind teams aren't that hard to assemble, so Ferris is probably just not going to find her way onto many teams. So it's easily replaced. So if you don't use things, they're useless. So even though this kind of in a vacuum isn't that bad, it's probably not that all desirable. That's true that her BSB2 can contribute to a fire-based team in Torment. The animation is top tier, that's true. And what do we got for physical fire damage dealers in Final Fantasy V? Gilgamesh and Bartz. So there is a slot there waiting for Ferris. So that's not terrible. Distant Consolation Prize. Alara BSB. It's a way for Alara to last stand. I have Alara's BSB. I got it from trying to get Alara's USB off the previous festival. I used it once. I used it once when I could have used something else instead. I could have used Realms BSB instead. It's a last stand BSB, and it's just not doesn't do anything into Torments because she's a core character. It's just not that great. But if you have her USB, pretty nice. Because it gives one of the best healer in the game the ability to last stand the party, which has nice and useful applications for certain AI lists. Next up, Papalymo BSB. It's a 6-hit command on a dual casting mage. Honestly, it's really not that bad because of his ability to add to a chain. It's not a strong command. It's only a 12.0 multiplier, and so it's about the same. It is almost the same potency as Chain Firaga, but it's 6 hits, and its ability to dual cast makes it potentially pretty powerful paired up with Chain. BSB 1 on Galoof. I agree that that is a very good thing for the Torment. So it's an okay BSB, but I think the primary draw of Papalymo's BSB is that it's a fire rod. Sorry, I wasn't able to completely update these. I unfortunately only got Banner 1 taken care of, but Papalymo's BSB is a fire rod. Um, there, it doesn't seem like there's that many fire weapons. They like all belong to Vivi. Vivi's got a fire staff BSB, a fire staff OSB, a fire staff USB. It's like they're all Vivis. Um, so I actually use Papalymo's BSB as a fire weapon on my fire team right now. So it is a useful relic. Um, Next up, Alphino BSB. This is pretty old. It's a terrible relic. It's a book with no plus element on it. Yeah, Terra's got a Fire Sword Ares ASB, but it's a sword, so only her and Nunny Knight can use it. Alphino's BSB is a bad relic, but it's an awesome soul break. Uh, the fact that it's an instant cast command with a pretty decent multiplier makes it better than most 5-star abilities. Now, that for a long time has deservedly flown under the radar. Because wind mages are a joke. But wind mages, obviously, because of the way the 5-star Magicites are set up, you've got to have good wind mages. So, wind mages do kind of get big again. With Barbaretia, Ultimecia, Fusion, and most importantly, Alphino himself becomes the magical wind generation 2 chain. So using this together with his magical wind chain is actually pretty powerful because that instant cast command, and remember Alphino has a 35% chance to dual cast summoning, and this is summoning, allows him to really stack up his chain quickly because he acts instantly every single turn. Alpha BSB greater than USB depends on how you want to run him. I think I'd probably prefer his USB, USB 2. Better than his USB 1 for sure. But his USB 2 is a Wind Radiant Shield Brave command, which is actually pretty nice. And I'd probably use his USB 2 over his BSB. But say you pull on the Final Fantasy 14 banner and get his chain, but not his USB. His BSB is a fine fallback because, like Sid Reigns, it is one of those super powered BSBs from back in the game that everyone forgot about because Wind Mages sucked and you didn't want to use Alphino anymore. But all of a sudden becomes a pretty decent BSB again because Wind Mages become good, and especially Alphino becomes a really good Wind Mage. So it's actually not a bad BSB. The problem is it's shown up in so many places that so many veterans have it that this is a terrible thing to see here. But if you don't have it, I would not mind having it. So there's our BSBs, and now we move into the 4 LMR section. Yeah, I went into this a little bit on the previous banner, but the banner format here is 4 LMR, 4 BSB, and a glint. This banner format is, if you view BSBs as the donks of the banner, it is a lower quality banner format than the events themselves, which just kind of stinks, and something to take in consideration that you do have a lower power creep level on the festival than you do events right now. So looking at the future events that are going to be happening in the next season will be important, and maybe important just to consider dodging all of this altogether until the world corrects itself, which will be in 4th anniversary in March. Legendizing Alphino worth it for his BSB alone? I would say no, because his BSB is going to do a lot of damage with the chain. And if you have the chain, then you have more than just his BSB because he's the one who has the chain. If you got his US or his chain and the BSB, then yeah, dive away, dive away. Okay, so 4 LMRs, Cloud LMR 2, 25% chance to dual cast wind abilities. Well, Cloud can make great use of that. That's a really good LMR. Papalymo LMR as he starts the battle with Enfire. It's not that hot yet. Because his BSB itself is Enfire. He has no Enfire Glint to Enfire stack. And Papalymo has White Magic 4, so there's often times where he spends the first action of a fight using something other than black magic or other than fire damage abilities. So his Enfire LMR is actually not that great. I probably wouldn't use it if I have him legend dived. I'll use his LM1 and LM2. But Papalymo does get stuff in that same... Yeah, this is actually a... Because of the Final Fantasy XIV stuff that's appearing here, I will go forward and show you the Final Fantasy XIV event, finally, that occurs with their Final Fantasy XIV Torment, does have Papalymo's ASB. That by itself makes his LMR a really good LMR, because that means you don't need any soul breaks with him anymore. All you need to do is start out with Enfire, and then use fire abilities and his ASB, and you're dealing a lot of damage. Alpha No Chain, Alpha No USB 2, talked about that. Thancred, not going to talk about that. But Papalymo, USB 2, also Enfire, but where is it? Oh, really? Papalymo doesn't get an Enfire stacking glint? Okay, never mind. So his Enfire LMR is basically for this. This is for his ASB. I'm glad you guys like my jokes. Alright, so next up, Ferris LMR. Ferris LMR has a problem, where it's actually a pretty sizable damage increase. Whoa, that is not how you spell Ferris. It's a pretty sizable damage increase if you fulfill a condition. Yeah, I made note of that, Ricky. Which is if you break 5 of the enemy's statistics, she gets a 20% damage increase. But you're not gonna do that because it doesn't make any sense to break an enemy's statistics now. So what you're gonna do is break them if those effects are on something else. Like her BSB2. Her BSB2 is worth using in certain situations, but it's only a 2-stat break. So, 6% damage increase. Ooh. Yeah, her USB 1 is a pentabreak, which means she would get 20% damage increase. But it's a 30% pentabreak, non-elemental, and not worth using. So you're not going to do that. So it doesn't matter. The only way you're ever going to want to use this LMR is... Well, you're going to use it because her dive is bad. And you might as well get something out of her. Is if you somehow create a team that breaks statistics passively on certain effects. Vaughn's USB 1 is actually pretty good because it gives him the ability to instant cast thief abilities. And thief abilities can hit wind and fire, which are both the same things that Ferris can do. So, and his USB 1 does break 2 stats. which I think are different stats, or are they the same? I think they're one of them's the same. So you bumped up to 9% at that point. But I'm just trying to bring kind of give you an example of a soul break that is good by itself and also break stats on the side. Right. Vaughn's USB 1 is attack and resistance, and it shares attack with her BSB, right? Because her BSB 2 is attack and defense. So that is what I said. So yeah, it's not that great of an LMR. You probably don't want it, but it is when light armor, so at least it has a redeeming quality to it. Alara LMR is a chance to Medica, right? When she uses a Bard ability. Not bad. Useful in some situations. I think most cases you're probably not going to use this LMR with Alara. You'd prefer LM1 to increase the potency of her healing. But if you're running Alara in a comp where she does spam Bard abilities, it could be useful. I think for most people it's not that hot of a pickup. So we got kind of a crummy bottom two. Not really all that useful LMR. Cloud's LMR is obviously really good. Alpha Note BSB is a bad dupe for a lot of people. Papalymo BSB is not bad, but it is fire magic, and I suppose you can probably do a hell of a lot better, even though his BSB is still useful. Alara's BSB is only good with her USB. Ferris BSB 2 has a very slim window of being decent. Cloud Glint, very good. And all of the 6 stars here are very good. Except for Ferris's USB 3. So there's actually a lot of holes on this banner. But it's mostly, at least, it's mostly the bottom. Once you pass the USB section. The 4 good USBs, the 4 good 6 stars on this banner are all really, really good. So it's not a terrible place to pick up Alara's USB, but it's also not great. So don't force yourself into it. I have not made a decision on this banner personally, because I want Alara's USB very badly. I don't have a good all mage. Aphmau is the best I've got, and I think her healing or her protection are insufficient for what's coming in the future for like Magicites and stuff. If I had Realm, I'd be less inclined to pick this up, but because Realm has Stone Skin 30% on her USB, and that's more protective. This is a tough one. I don't really want that much stuff on this banner, but I do want a lot of the good stuff. Alright, I'll be back in 1 second, being called away. Then I'll conclude this. I'll conclude the second banner. Um, I use that as my drink break, so I'm just gonna fly right into Banner 3 once we're done this one. Man, Banner 2. There's some really strong stuff on here. Onion Knight USB 3, Cloud ASB, Cloud Glint. God, it's extra hard for me because I have Cloud's Glint, I have Cloud's LMR 2, taking two of the most powerful things, the most desirable things off the banner. Um, dupe, 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 dupe. How many things do I want on this banner? Cloud ASB, Terra USB 2, Onion Knight USB, Alara USB. That's it. I will have to think long and hard about pulling on a banner that only has that many wins on it. It's possible that I could pull because and as I should, weight 6 stars higher, much higher than 5 stars. So duping on some of the stuff down here doesn't that mean that much to me. Uh, the reason why I care so much is because this and this are oh god, I did it again. Are extremely valuable. Alara USB and Onion Knight USB 3. Cloud ASB is I have a very, very powerful cloud. It kind of came out of nowhere, and I am missing this. It is a good banner. It is. Because take away my dupes. Cloud Glint, Cloud LMR. Yeah, I'm just not that big of a fan of some of the stuff down here. Lara BSB is good with her USB, but still, it's additional functionality. It's not like a big deal or anything. It's a tough one. Tough one. Uh, is there any way I could replicate what this banner accomplishes? Cloud ASB, no. Terra USB 2 is not strictly necessary for me. I do have Terra's Glint, I do have her BSB 2 and her ASB. I can run Terra as a Fire Mage without that. And feel pretty good about it. Onion Knight. Hard to replicate Onion Knight USB 3. The only things that can do this better than this are Palom and VV's USBs. But they're not. It's not like they're mutually exclusive or anything. You can use both, and you may want to use both on a water team. When did I get Terra's ASB? Yeah, the first time it came out on that banner that I hyped up, Yuffie and Terra. Good banner. Alara USB is